Sustainable Development Goals, a call to action to end poverty, protect the environment and climate, and ensure that people everywhere can enjoy peace and prosperity. Now, those are the goals the United Nations is working on in Nigeria. How are we as a people meeting the milestones, meeting the targets that we have set? Are they attainable? Are they achievable, especially in the present economic situations of Nigeria? Welcome to Viewer Exclusive here on Viewer Television. My name is Chinonso Chekwet, and I'll be having a conversation with a passionate advocate on the SDGs. Join me again after the break. Many thanks for joining me again on another exciting and educative episode of Viewer Exclusive. Like I mentioned before we went on that quick break, today we'll be looking at the SDGs and how Nigeria is meeting the milestones that we have set. My guest today is Nanpak Kirfot, and he is a communications strategist, and he's with me live in the studio. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's so good to have you today in the studio. So let's get straight into the conversation. The SDGs, like I have mentioned, let me start by asking how this goal is realistic, especially in the eradication of poverty and seeing that Nigerians are prosperous, especially in our present economic situation right now. We seem to be having more people going below the poverty line.
Yeah. Okay, so SDGs in Nigeria, permit me to just be blunt about it. We are far behind schedule, behind target.
Okay.
The SDG goals by the United Nations is expected to be attained by 2030. And we have less than 7 years to achieve that. This is 2024, so 6 years thereabout, to achieve that. While I know government at various levels, at the national and subnational levels, are working to ensure that we achieve that, permit me to say we are far behind schedule, and I'm not sure that we are 50%, to attaining the SDGs in Nigeria.
Okay, so let's do a comparison with Nigeria and other nations, say in Africa too. Are they doing better than we are doing?
I don't have the statistics now,
yeah.
But with what we have going on in Nigeria, I think we are behind schedule.
We're behind schedule.
Even comparing with other African nations. Compare our economy, for instance, with other African nations. We might claim to be the giant of Africa, but economically, we are really struggling, especially from last year till now, and then putting reality in check. Nigerians are far more complaining and going through hardship than it was. And with the SDGs, the whole goal of the SDGs at the end of the day is to improve growth and attain development. And if at this level we are struggling with basics, it then means that we are really behind schedule.
Yeah. So growth and development, and we know that one of the ways that a community or a people develop is the level of education that the people are exposed to. And we know that if you're trying to eradicate poverty, I'm guessing that education has to play a major role in that, right? So how are we on that scale? Because I'm thinking that we'll have to start from somewhere. How are we in seeing that education is pushing this SDG agenda?
Yes, so education should actually propel the attainment of the SDGs, because when we are educated, when we know about the thing, when we are enlightened about the thing, we can do better, we can work on it. But as it stands, basic educational level, we are struggling. I'm not trying to be a prophet of doom for Nigeria or pronouncing doom upon us, but as it stands right now, we are having challenges even with basic education at the primary school level. When you go to grassroots communities, when you travel across the country, you still find out of school children.
Yeah.
Aside from the number of out of school children, even the quality of education that is available for these children is a challenge. Right now, some part of the north central and the northwest and even northeast region over the years have been um, faced with violence, and all of these things are stopping even the enrollment of children in school to say,
Yeah.
oh, so that they will be able to have basic education, and because when they have this basic education, they now know it is on that, on that pedestal, they can be able to prepare other things. Oh, they can be able to push for, oh, let's go into farming. Okay, as we are farming, okay, we can do improve farming. We can go into better healthcare. We can seek for this when they have the knowledge. But we are struggling with even basic education. So until we go back to the drawing board, begin to fix education even from the primary school level. Go to our public secondary school. People are running away from the public secondary school. I did not do my secondary education in public secondary school. Maybe the first, maybe only unity schools. That's federal government colleges and federal government girls colleges. You can, brag about the level of education,
Yes.
they receive at that level because they are being run by the federal government. But when you go to state secondary schools, you will be so surprised at what they are being, the level of the quality that is at their disposal. It's something, it's nothing to write home about, right? And that's why you see that when you go, okay, take WAEC, take statistics, students that are in government secondary school and students that are in quote and unquote private school, put them, how are they faring? You see that students that are in these private school are doing better. When in the early days of our nationhood, people go to public secondary school
And get the best.
people go to public primary school, people go to public university, and they get the best of the best. But as it stands right now, people run away from these government institutions, primary and secondary schools, to seek private. And well, there may be regulation, but not regulated enough. Private schools right now are even becoming something else. They are becoming places whereby people just go to make. It's now a business center, so it's not passion for education that is driving people, but passion to make a livelihood, to make money that is driving people
to go open the
go
schools.
open schools right now. So when the focus, when the passion is not to educate and pass knowledge, rather it is to make money, to get some gains. So you see that the drive to ensure that these students get the right and appropriate education is put at the back corner. What is on the front burner is what can we do to make extra money from the student, right? So yeah, as you
So
see the challenges.
the education sector right now is facing a multidimensional problem because if I go by what you say, education security, level of insecurity is affecting education because it's determining whether people are going to schools or not,
Yeah.
right? The economic status also of even the people who want to run schools is no longer passion for education. So now it's not in question, right, whether the government is doing enough for the education sector or not. Some quotas would argue that I think the state of emergency should be declared on the education sector right now, and I agree to that. So I'm not going to ask whether the government is doing enough. The question is, what should the government do if they would listen? What should they do to the education sector to see that the education sector begins to grow to what it used to be?
Okay. Um, I will say, when you have government on one side and you have private business on another side working together, right? Those enterprises or those ventures seem to thrive. My submission: let government, partner with the private sector, while the private sector is providing a platform. Federal government should equip. Okay, federal government can, set up structures because they own the land, right? And it's easier for them to mobilize resources, to set up structures. Federal government can set up structures, and then let's have people with that orientation of making things work come into the sector and run it as a form of private public partnership, right? So that nobody is giving excuses that, oh, because of this we are not running, because of that. Where any private person, any businessman or woman that has an investment will not let that investment go to the drain, right? They will ensure that they are actually, making every necessary penny from that investment, right? When we have that kind of system in place, government would ensure that there are check and balances, right? And then those private enterprises will ensure that they run it to the maximum, ensuring that students are getting the best while they are also getting value for their investment. With that kind of a situation, it will work. Because over time, we've seen how corruption have eaten our system, and that's why for me I would have said, oh, let's advocate for more government involvement, government to take sole responsibility of education, in the country. But we've seen how corruption over time have eaten the system and have caused us to be where we are today.
Yeah.
If you go around the country, check budgetary allocation for education, then go into communities and look at it. Okay, this is what is allocated for this community. Do we have release for those allocations? Yes, we have releases for them. But do we have implementation for those things? You don't see them. So to say that let's allow everything into the hands of government, it's well, past experiences, recent experiences have shown that
Past and recent
yes,
experiences.
it's not attainable. But when we have government, we have private sector coming together to work, it will, I assure you, it will thrive. Go to just take an assessment of private owned institutions, right? Primary, secondary, where they are more value oriented, not business minded. You see that you can't compare them with students from public schools. You cannot. I did my junior secondary school at a federal government college, which till today I can boldly say that they still maintain that standard. But transiting into a private school for my senior secondary school, it was a bit challenging for me. I was able to, measure up, but after a while,
Took some time to
it took some time for me to find my balance in my SS1 before I was able to, compete with everybody that was there, right? So you still see that there is a gap at that level.
Yeah.
From that time to now, I've left secondary school 15 years now. From that time to now, things have gone bad. So we need to, government need to actually sit down and reassess. Why we can't say, well, corruption is a cankerworm in the system, and if we cannot fight it outrightly, truth be told, because when you fight corruption, corruption will fight back. But when we have a system where, we have we have government on one part, we have private sector on one part coming together to work together to provide quality education, will ensure that we have quality education that we can compete, our student can compete with anybody around the world. And with that, we can now begin to talk about solving other challenges that are bedeviling us as a nation.
All right. So, as you've said a lot, and I was going to talk about the private sector, but you seem to have merged both of them. And we would always wonder why things, businesses thrive in the private sector and not in the hands of the government, besides just bureaucracy and all of that. But we're hoping that we get to see an end to this, but shortly, because let's get the conversation going. Do you think that policies would help? Policies like the government has to bring up new policies in the education sector.
Okay. Um, Nigeria is not suffering from policies.
Okay.
We are not a nation that is having challenges with, existence of policies. We have policies, beautiful, fine policies, but they are all in the cupboard. They are all in the wardrobe. They are inside the file on the table somewhere. If only we will, as a people, now government now, be truthful to ourselves. We have XYZ policies in place. How operational are those policies? Nigeria, when you look at international treaties, Nigeria is signatory to every quote and unquote important treaty that will, move us as a nation. But where do we have challenge? We have challenge in the operationalization of those treaties in our country. For instance, the FOI, Freedom of Information Act, we have it operational at the national level. But when you go to, we don't have it operational at the subnational level.
Yeah.
So, if you're crying about policies now, we have one. But you have to domesticate it, you have to get it operational, you have to get it working. So while I know that we need to re-strategize, we need to rework our policies, we need to get new policies that also are contemporary, right? But those policies that we have before now, what has been the challenge, of those policies not being operational? So if we can identify challenges from before, right, and then acknowledge that we want these things to work, I'm careful to say willpower. But when we acknowledge that we want these things to work, then we can begin to canvass for newer policies to to get things working for us.
Because we know that they would actually be beneficial.
Yes, to
so
us.
having new policies or having policies where there isn't the environment to see that those policies thrive, we may not be heading anywhere. So let me ask personally now, as an advocate, what have you done? What are you doing in the education sector?
Okay. For me as a person, I the much we can do for now is to continue to advocate and call on government to increase funding, and not just funding, but also the quality of education that is available to Nigerians, most especially at the primary and at the secondary school level. Over time, we've been making calls to government, and the rest. Just recently, we identified that a community, my community, I'm from Lantang, in Plateau State. My community, we identified that we had some out of school children, and one of the leading causes of that was poverty. School fees of children in those communities is less than, for the three terms, first term, second term, third term, it's about at most 5,000 naira. At most, at that community level. But you still see children in their hundreds out of school. So we came together, and then we were able to have some of these kids back to school, right? But that's not enough. We need to, at this level, what we do mostly is advocating, calling on government to do the necessary things. While we provide infrastructure, how can we, have a, how do I call it? How do I call it? Zero, you don't need to pay. Free education, that's the
Yeah.
word. Free education for children, for primary and secondary school education. It, it doesn't cost much for government. Let there be free, not only free, but compulsory and quality education. That's our advocacy now.
Yeah.
Free, compulsory, and quality education for children in primary and secondary school level. Because when we have free education, we take them off the street, they are able to access. Compulsory, we ensure that nobody is outside. You are, as so long as you are in that age group, you should be in school. So Monday to Friday, when we catch you on the street, we go, who is your father, who is your mother, who is your guardian? We trace you back, go back to school, right? And then quality, we ensure that teachers are being trained. Teacher training and retraining is institutionalized in our system. Every session or every term, there should be an avenue where teachers are being trained and retrained. Teachers to go to acquire, if you're having an NC, you should go and apply, get a BSc. If you're having a BSc, work towards attaining an MSc. If you're having an MSc, work towards attaining a PhD. Right? Attend conferences, attend workshops. With all of these things, we ensure that teachers are also up to date in their knowledge, so that you will not go and be giving knowledge that is meant for people, for times in
Obsolete
2000 and
education.
2005 for people in 2024, right? So when we're able to achieve that, I think it will go a long way.
It will take us there.
And also providing learning materials in a clean and conducive environment.
Yeah, that's also sustainable.
In a clean and conducive environment. I was in a community and I saw children learning under a tree.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Under a tree.
That's quite unacceptable.
Very, very
when
unacceptable.
The government can provide
basic. And then when you have those quote and unquote building, furniture is another challenge. You go into the classroom and children are seated on the ground.
Not a conducive learning environment.
You understand?
At all. And that would question what the child is assimilating
in that environment.
Yes. Great work you're doing, but at this point we'll have to take a break and we'll right back with and follow up on the conversation. Join us again. Many thanks for sticking with me here on Viewer Exclusive on Viewer Television. I'm still in conversation with Nanpak Kilford, and we've been talking about the SDGs, but we want to move the conversation over to matters that are arising in the nation, because we know that you're very opinionated on national matters, and so we'd like to get your opinion, your views, possible recommendations on this. So we just picked a few stories, and let's get your first that is making the rounds now. I, in particular, I am very, when I saw this, when I saw the NAFDAC ban on sachet alcohol, I hit a sigh of relief, like, oh, finally, their eyes are on this thing. But the trade unions now have come out to say that millions and hundreds of thousands of people are going to be taken out of jobs. Like, so let me just understand, let me get your views and your what you think about the ban.
Okay. As an SDG advocate,
Yes.
first off,
Yes.
and one that is very particular about climate, change, taking climate action, it's a very, very good one.
Okay.
Because when you go out on the street, you see sachets
Everywhere.
of this substance, littered everywhere. So it's good that we have that, at least a ban on such production. On the other hand, I believe so much in everyone having something to do, and I don't want to say I'm faulting the government, neither am I faulting the owners of these establishments, but I think there is a gap that is missing, even though government is saying that there was a window period that was given to these people, for them to transit. That's our challenge, basic challenge, transitioning. And even in the call for, transitioning to climate sustainable means, right? One of our challenge is how do we also transition workers within these systems? Right now, they are halting all of these things, and we have hundreds of thousands of people that are involved that are gainfully employed in this industry. What do we do with them?
So are you proposing a regulation?
There should be a regulation, and people that are involved, owners of these, manufacturers of these, of these substances, of these products, should begin to think of how they themselves, as a business, can transit to something that is eco-friendly. Aside the fact that content of those could be harmful, to some people, and when it is readily available, it can easily fall into the hands of children. As I don't know how much they sell it now, but
They go for as low as 100 naira, 150 naira.
good. So anybody can have access to it, and the painful thing is that retail businesses don't care who comes to buy it.
Exactly.
They don't regulate who comes to buy it. So long as you come with your 100 naira, you can access it, right? So there's need for a shift for everybody that is involved in the value chain. So from the manufacturers, okay, what can we do? How can we transit, as a business, so that we will also be sustainable, right? And for the retailers, who are those people that have access to it, and even so government needs to, I know that, as I said earlier, policies, we are not liking in policies, right? But I think government need to have a deliberate sit down with these manufacturers, and as a nation we need to also plan on how can we transit to a sustainable model in everything that we do. Because coming out to say, oh, we are halting this thing from the first of this or from this other, so what do you expect them to do? That was one of the things I faulted with the federal government when it put a ban on the importation of rice some years ago. We don't have our farmers, we don't have that product readily available in the country. And that's where we saw the prices of a bag of rice jumping from as low as 6,500 naira, 6,000, 8,000, 7,000, 8,000. I think, if I'm not mistaken, as of then, the best, quote and unquote, best rice, bag of rice you can see, you can get it for as low as 10,000 naira. But just yesterday, I was, in the car going home, and then someone was saying that, a bag of rice is going for about 70 something thousand naira. Simply because before the ban, there would have been a system that will improve local production. When we have that system in place, we have sufficient within. We can easily put a ban, because whether it comes in or it doesn't comes in, it doesn't affect us. So for government to say, we are putting a ban on the production of sachet alcohol or whatsoever, what have you put in place so that we don't go scouting for these things from somewhere, and also people that are involved in the value chain they don't get to suffer, and they are able to move on to something else seamlessly. We don't have that in place. Hundreds of people, there are going to be layoff now. Company owners of these productions are going to be, they have machineries and all of those things. I know that it's not the responsibility of government, but as a responsible nation, you should be concerned about production in your country, because they are providing service to your population. So everybody that is involved in this value chain should have a sit down. Government, manufacturers, everybody should sit down, come together. What can we do going further? I know if government should say it in, it stands, but there's also a place to reassess the situation, and let's see what we can do, so that we don't lay people, we don't have people already. We are having, quote and unquote, more than 130 million people living in multi-dimensional poverty. With this number of persons now that are going to be laid off from because I know people in their hundreds of thousands are involved here. With this number of persons, definitely you should know that 130 million is going to increase. So should we be focused on putting hardship on our people, or should we be finding solutions?
Let's do this mathematics and see where we go with this. I read we're going to have about 500,000 people out of jobs if this ban is seen through to the end. But again, like I said, you see a lot of, because of access to these things, like earlier, before we began to see all the sachets of alcohol, you wait until evenings before you see a drunk man on the road. Right now, you're seeing a drunk man in the afternoon. You're seeing an Okada man or a tricycle rider just picking these sachets, and he's driving you on the road because it's now affordable, it's accessible, right? And all of that. So in another way, don't you think that this has also affected productivity in the economy in general?
Yeah.
As in comparison to the number of people who will now be out of jobs for this reason.
The menace of sachet alcohol is a lot. Should be told, it's a lot. People call it quick charge. Because you just take it and then, quote and unquote, you're high.
Yeah.
And they feel all right. And so I'm a grassroots person. I stay in communities a lot. And there was a time that I stayed about 5 months completely in the grassroots community. And every morning I go out, I see young men that should be involved in production, having a productive day, involving in one business or one form of business or another, or providing one services or another. First thing they do is to take a couple of these sachets, and quote and unquote, let me use, day all right before starting the day. And you see them behave in a very, very unprofessional way. They behave hostile, they are somehow, they just become angry. Somehow it affects their relationship with people. So instead of having a more productive day at the end of the day, because when you take all of those substances, I'm not a scientist, but I know that it limits your capacity to deliver.
Yes.
So it affects all of that. While I know that we are having people out of jobs because of this, I that's why I'm saying let's have a sustainable way whereby we are able to regulate it. Access to it is being regulated. Government is being able to, not only government, but even community people. So recently, I saw that in a community in Jos, women were going around retail stores. And if you have, because in that community, they put a ban on it, because there are young men and young women, first thing
This
they
is
do.
before this ban?
Yes. In January. In a community in Jos, women were going shop by shop, and when you have this product, they seize it and they destroy it. Because before then, they had already given notice to people that were involved in selling all of those things. That look, you either change your business or stop selling this thing in our community. And when it was the said date, women gathered together with some vigilantes and the rest, and they were going. If they come to your shop and they find that, they seize it and they destroy it.
Oh, wow.
Right? So we have moral decadence in our society right now, because anybody that feels it's good to take this substance, you should know that there are times where you should take them. As you said earlier, before now, you only find young people in the late evenings.
Yeah.
Not just evening, late evenings. When they are done from the day, they are retired to their homes or to their joints and the rest to relax. That's when they involve in taking all of these things. But right now, because we have moral decadence, abuse of all of these things. So there's need for a reorientation from our homes. I'm not going to say from government.
Yeah.
From our homes as individual, as a community. Imagine that every community, like that community I saw, is taking it upon itself that this substance, we don't want to find it in our community, or anybody that is selling this substance can only open his or her shop at a certain time, and that there should be a form of self-censorship whereby the person that is selling, in as much as it's a business, you want to make money, you should be able to censor who have access to these things. With that, we can be able to regulate, and find a way
balance
forward.
and regulation.
Yeah.
Yes. So we know that the trade unions are advocating for this, but we're hoping that they see the bigger picture, the good of the whole nation. Yes. So still talking about the trade unions now, briefly, the NLC has come out now and they have given a bogus and robust, I won't call it a plea now because they seem to be making it a request, right, of the new wage that they want the government to pay civil servants now, and they have tagged it at 1 million naira. Is this you're laughing? Is this realistic? Because we're yet to recover from them asking for 200,000, which has not been, and they've taken it up like, okay, you won't give us 200, we're asking for 1 million now. What's your take on that, briefly?
Even is it 30,000 or 36,000?
30,000.
Palliative, relief palliative. That the government,
wage
federal
award,
government,
35,000.
35,000, thank you. That the federal government promised. Till date, there are people that only receive a month. I know someone
Received, yes.
that the only thing it's just 1 month.
1 month.
And this is like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be for 6 months.
And it's supposed to be for 6 months. I think NLC should be realistic. We are all in this country. We know where we stand as a nation with our finances. We know where we are, and seeing that every Nigerian worker should be paid a minimum of 1 million naira. From where? Where do you expect? I'm not defending government.
The savings from the subsidy.
How much is this savings from the subsidy? And even at that, federal government was not having saved money that they were taking to pay subsidy. Federal government was borrowing to pay subsidy. So savings from subsidy is that we are not borrowing to pay. What comes goes out. We are not borrowing right now to pay for it. So NLC, NLC should please.
So their agitations are unfounded and unrealistic.
It's unrealistic. Going by what is attainable as a nation right now, as a people, it's unrealistic.
It's unrealistic.
While they are clamoring that, because of the exchange rate, blah, blah, these are some of the premise on which they are setting it at 1 million naira. We should clamor for things that will make life better for everybody. How many people are employed in the civil service? Because that's only for civil servants.
Yeah.
So what do you do with people that are in the private sector?
Because even if the private sector, they would have to retrench and relieve a lot of people if they even want to go by this. So would have a lot of more people.
They will not only retrench and relieve people, but they will close shop. Let me use that word. Their shop, they will close shop.
They will close.
Because
they will close businesses.
And with that again, inflation is going to go high. We are already suffering from inflation in double digits percentage. We are suffering from it already as what it is today. And you want to take it to 1 million? Yeah. Please.
So that's NLC should take a redress and bring realistic.
Let's be realistic.
Yeah, let's be realistic. All right, let's go on a quick break. And when we return, we'll get your views on Nigeria's performance at the AFCON. Do stay with us.
In this 21st century, where all the information we need is now in the palm of our hands. News from around the world, entertainment, celebrity gossip, sports, and much more. The only thing that you need is the right source. Viewer TV is now on the go. Simply check us out on our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter for all the information you need.
Many thanks for staying with me. I'm still in conversation with Nanpak Kilfort here live in the studio with me on this week's episode of Viewer Exclusive. So Nigeria, the Super Eagles, I would say had an amazing performance at the AFCON because we came as far as to the second position. We all hoped for a win. We all hoped as Nigeria for a win, but we got what we got, and we're proud of the Super Eagles.
Very
And
proud.
they are back in the country now, and the president has seen them, and he's giving them awards and all the promises and everything. So what's your general take on their performance, of their performance at the AFCON? And of course, the president's welcoming them, and he's giving them awards. Because a lot of reactions have come out of his promise of giving them a land and a flat and all of that. What's your
Okay, so
take?
first off, I'll begin with the award, from the president. It's a very good one, but again, beyond just promising them, let's ensure that they are giving all of these.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was the former minister of sport. It was until his tenure that a promise was fulfilled from 1990
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
So when we make commitment as a government, please let's see to it that it is fulfilled immediately. It's a good one, it's commendable, and then let's have that replicated across different sporting activities. Right? When we have people go to represent us as a nation, we should be able to acknowledge them. We should be able to give them grand reception as they were giving. The Super Eagles were actually given grand reception,
Yeah.
not only from federal government, but also corporate organization, appreciating them and then, hosting them. For their performance at the AFCON, they did well. They played well, but I believe we can still do better. We are Nigerians, and as Nigerians, we have the never give up spirit in us. They did well. They did well. I'm not a footballer, and I may not talk much about how they played,
Dynamics
but
of
for
football,
them,
yeah.
coming
This
from
far.
participating to getting the silver medal. Come on, that's commendable. That's amazing. We saw the cup, but we couldn't touch it. But it's painful. But again, they did well. And I also just want to admonish us as a people, as Nigerians, right now, that let's learn to live in the spirit of AFCON. During the AFCON, Nigerians come together. Everybody. To
Yes.
support Nigeria. Nobody was thinking about religion. Nobody was thinking about race. Nobody was thinking about ethnicity.
Exactly.
We were Nigerians everywhere. Every day that Nigeria was playing, every viewing center was packed full. In communities, I watched the match at home, and while watching, when Nigeria scores, you see the whole neighborhood, the chanting and the celebration. Please, can we replicate that in everything we do as a people? In elections, for instance, there has never been a time that I've witnessed that Nigeria was divided as last election. But if we can continue with the spirit that we imbibe, during this AFCON, we can achieve a lot of things as a nation. Kudos to them, and we look forward to them doing greater things. With this, we've qualified for the World Cup, and I believe that we can just get ourselves strengthened. Let's begin preparation in earnest for the World Cup and even for AFCON that will be coming next year.
Another 2 years.
Yeah.
Great conversation with you, Napaxi.
Thank you very much for having me.
It was amazing to have you. Yes. So lessons to pick from the AFCON. We can be united. It is a possibility. If we can come together like this in football, then we shouldn't let religion, tribe, or any political affiliation keep us divided. We can be one Nigeria. And lastly, please, to people cyberbullying our Super Eagles, come on, they are our Super Eagles and they made us proud. Please, let's desist from that. And like people will say, whether we win, we're one. Whether we lose, we're one. And we didn't lose. We came second place. That's something to be happy about. Yes, go Super Eagles. That's something to be really excited about. Yeah, thank you so much for sticking with us till the end of your exclusive on this very amazing episode. Until I come your way again, my name is Chinonso Chekwas. Have a good day.